We're going to look now at using ink, a bit of pen and a stick with the ink. And then we're going to add a little bit of colour perhaps to do some nice quick studies of what we see before us. So I've used some images of the beach, pebbles, etc. Down by the river. And what I did while sitting at the river actually, but you can do it back in your workshop or your studio, would be to then do some loose drawings of some of those stones and rocks that I saw sitting around my feet. And obviously it doesn't look like the beach, but there's definitely, you can recognise there's elements of that within what I'm seeing here. And what I've used is a little bottle of ink with a stick. This is vegetation that's been left on the beach or growing around the edge of the beach. Another one is this one here. So very, quite chunky actually, basic. But what we're looking at is keeping it basic, because from this you can see it's obviously shells from the beach, some razor shells, some bits of seaweed, some bits of shards of pottery perhaps, and a shell perhaps with little spots on it of some sort. So this, although it's very basic, it's giving me lots of information, and I can see straight away how I can make that a pattern on a piece of fabric that would make a really nice pattern on a garment. The beauty of using your own imagery from places you've been to, things you have around you that mean something to you, it means you have an invested story in the work that you're producing. So that when you can produce a work of art and it's got information in there and you can link it and tell a story about why that print evolved and or that textile technique, that pattern, where it came from. And that is really important in textile design. So I'm going to show you how to do this. I've got another one I think to show you here. Oh, this is another one here. So this on the rocks and stones are fairly small on the page, I suppose. They're not that small. But then this one here, you'll see I've kind of played a bit with scale, and I've actually done, I can just pan out a wee bit. I've done a zoom in as well. So I've zoomed in really deeply into the image, and that, I think that stripe, this white line here, do you see that? That mimics that there. And then this rock here with all the detail is actually this rock here. When you look really close at it, you've got lots of stuff going on, little marks and shapes within the surface of the pebble. So that's what I've tried to sort of emulate or draw here, with the stick filling in some of the gaps. So if we go back to the image of the nice lichen, pine needles, etc., I'm going to focus in on this area, and I've taken a photograph on my phone of a zoom in of that area, which I really like. So what I'm going to do is just demonstrate how to use ink and a stick to try and do a little drawing to suggest some of that pattern that we're seeing. So although we know it's pine needles, when I zoom in like that, look, I'm seeing lovely, I'm seeing a lot, I mean, it's a bit blurred, isn't it? But it doesn't matter, because what I'm seeing is lots of colour variation and some really nice stripes going on. We've got like a green, a black, this kind of yellowy, tawny colour, black again. Here we've got black, we're going into a kind of browny colour, little shard of like a kind of minty green, or I don't know if it's minty green, it's like a grey green, I would say. And then we've got a bit more of this brown here. Got just some really nice areas there to look at to create shapes from, or pattern that we're going to use. So take a piece of cartridge. Let me just get that in front of me. Oops, where did I put that? Oh, I'm just going to use a slightly smaller bit. I can't find my bigger bit. We're going to get a bit of cartridge. I've got a little bottle of ink here. This is Winsor and Newton ink, but any ink is fine. There's ink in college. And I've picked up here just literally some little sticks from outside that I'm going to use. Now it can get a bit messy, the ink. So I probably would suggest you get a little bit of newspaper. I've got some here that you're going to just pop down on your desk underneath. okay, to keep as much ink off. I'm always making a big mess of ink on the table, etc. Pull up your sleeves so you're getting them out of the way as well. So you want to open your ink, establish what you're drawing, open your ink carefully. Now there's quite often when you open it ink residue in the lid, which I quite like using to start with. And then we're going to take the sticks that you found, I'll just pop them on top here, and have a go drawing what you can see using the ink and the stick. So like I'm going to dab my stick, DC, into the ink, and then when you take it out you've got a little bit on, and I think it's good to go easy at the start. Actually not as much in that lid as I thought there would be. So easy at the start, and I'm going to focus on these nice lines coming across my page. So we're just focusing on the one colour. That's not too blurred. Yeah. So I'm going to actually just draw my lovely lines. I'm going to go right across my page with my stick. And I think definitely I need more ink. So what I'm going to do, I'm slightly out of shot, I'm going to dip my stick into my ink pot. And I'm going to actually decide I'm going to just create some of these lines. So that's that one kind of going up. And then I've got one going across here an angle. So I'm actually going to come across here for this one. Bring it in. And I'm going to dip it in again. And I got some kind of interesting things going on here. So on this side of the page, I'm going to just bring that in there and bring it up as well. Take that bit out. And then I'm going to start actually putting my stick slightly on its side so that we can build up just some interesting textures. So we've got this one already. I brought this one in. I've got a shorter one here to bring in. Like that. I'm going to dip it in. So we've got some kind of solid green area up here as well. So I'm just going to actually use my stick to kind of try to colour that bit in a bit, just to indicate that I've got that solid green bit in there. And we're starting to see we're building up an area. And then, you know, you don't have to stick to the one area when you're doing your drawing. You can actually decide, right, I'm going to move over and I'm going to have a look and see, you know, I quite like this curve coming in here as well, and these shapes. So I'm going to decide to actually maybe even turn my page, and I'm going to actually now bring that curve round. It's kind of coming from a stem in the middle, but I'm just going to bring it like a curve and into there. And we've got another one coming into here, the curve into here. So then what I'm going to try and do is see if I can find an area from my image where I've got some more things that I want to pull out. I've got sort of little, you can see we're obviously just using black, but we've got some kind of little lines and dots and things. So I'm just going to actually bring that in as well. Bring back on my page. I'm going to bring that shape in. I'm going to see if I can bring in some of those little dots in there as well. And I'm going to come back in here and maybe bring with a finer, like a tiny little fine line as well, to take this one off here. And we've got like the little line. I might just sort of draw some fine lines into my leaf. They're not leaves, are they? They're pine needles. And then some of these little dot bits that I was kind of looking at as well, just bring these in, just little kind of squiggly bits, bring them in. So we're starting to build up lines that we can then use in a pattern. So you'll notice the one I showed you, I'm going to put a lid on that just now, had some colour in it. See this one here? I've got the sort of shapes with the lines. I do think the pebbles work quite well. And I've got a little bit of shading, and there's a bit of colour coming in here. This is a kind of sort of off grey colour that we've got here. We've got a little bit of pale blue as well. So what you could do is you could use some chalk to bring in some little bit of colour. So we've got this colour is our like tawny colour and our green, just to add an extra dimension. So I've got here some, these are quite nice to use. These are chalk pencils, but you can also use, you know, you might have little chalk sticks like this, where you've got like little, I think they're Conte, aren't they? Quite often they're called little chalk sticks. So it might be nice to maybe choose a couple of these that you think tone into the colour that you're trying to do. So I'm going to take a bit of that green. I've got a little bit of that tawny brown colour. I've got quite a bright sort of yellow in there as well. So I might take a teeny bit of, I've got a little yellow there as well. So they're little shards of chalk, but equally you might find you want to use a bit of a bright one if you've got a really bright yellow chalk. So you don't have to be, you just are inspired by this that you're using as your start point. So we're going to have a go just blending in a little bit of chalk once that is dry. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to get my hairdryer and give that a wee blast. Oops. Is it doing almost? Just give it a wee blast. That might do for the purpose of the video. And then, of course, you could have prepared your paper and had a background colour before as well, but once you're ready with that, we're going to be looking very much again at this section of the image, and I'm going to start adding my little, I'm not going to add loads of colour, I'm just going to add little tiny bits of colour. So if I was doing this, I would decide, right, I can see I want to add my lovely bit of green. So it's kind of like a little slither of green. And I'm just going to put a little slither in here. And then this, you know, you kind of look back to kind of where you got that information from to see if that helps you again with some of your colours. I'm not going to put loads on. This one over here, I'm just going to add a touch of green to that. My ink's a little bit wet still, so that's okay. I might just blend that in. I've got my lovely tawny kind of brown colour. So again, within my needles, I've got a little bit of brown as well, and I've got a little bit of brown as well down here. And then this bright yellow as well. I think that's really important to get that in as well. So I'm going to really bring that yellow out to here. That tawny was a bit orangey red, wasn't it? But it doesn't matter. I quite like it. If you really don't like it being too strong, you know, you can maybe use your finger. You could even get like a white one, a white chalk, and put it on top, just to sort of blend it in and dull it down a wee bit if you don't like it. But that's the idea of what we want to do. And I would say from my artwork point of view, I would maybe add a bit more to that. Take a little bit more of the green. You might want to blend it in a bit more with your fingers, but pretty much that's us there. This section, remember I said there was this kind of big green section, so you might actually want to just bring in a green section that kind of emulates that as well. And then that to me is now, I'm ready, I'm happy with that, and I would start to kind of use elements from this to create some designs on a sleeve silhouette, if that was what I was going to do, thinking about how I could use textile techniques to create pattern in fabric.